anyway, I had a very, very good time. I'm a lucky guy. I fell into the business, and literally, I managed to hang around now for 30 years, and I'm still doing okay.
Cool. When you sign a star on something like this,
on a play?
Yeah, on a play. So you don't know for sure how long it's going to go. How do you sign that? And especially if you're going to star.
It's really simple. When you're dealing with talent, it's different than if you're signing somebody to a movie or to a television show, because then you are kind of open-ended. TV, you try to usually do, if it's a name, you try to do like a 3-year deal, because you don't want to have to renegotiate at the end of every year where they'll ask you for more money. They'll renegotiate anyway, by the way. You make 3-year deals, but they never hold if the show is successful. For a movie, it's pretty simple. You know what the prep is going to be. You know what the principle is going to be. Then you tie them into a publicity phase at the back end of it. At least you try to. With a stage show, it's almost the same as a movie. You tie them in as best you can to X amount of months that you can get. In this instance, I negotiated a year from the first paid performance. The problem with this is, once you do a year from the first paid performance, it negates the ability to go out of town. Because where you go out of town to do developmental production, to get the kinks out of the show and look at it, get in front of an audience and try to figure some stuff out, you can't really do that because I could then lose 3 months. And what I need to do is get it to New York, keep this guy in New York, and make as much money as I can. The way that I run the math on this show, I can recoup 100% of the investment after 11 months. So I can, given his box office pull. So that's what you do. What you would hope is, as a secondary conversation, that you get the person to sit down in one other company. A sit-down company is where you just go someplace and leave it open-ended for a while. It doesn't mean you actually sit down, but you sit the company down. So in this instance, you would like to maybe take it to the West End, you take it down to Australia, which is a great theatrical market in Australia, and maybe head there for a while and hope that he comes down and does that show. The other thing I'm thinking of trying to do is find, everybody looks for, just an incredibly talented girl, kind of to walk in the Judy Garland footsteps, which is pretty tough, and then do what the screenplay does, which is make her a star. And if she does become a star, then when the name above marquee leaves, we'll take her name and we'll move, and then she'll leave the marquee. The other thing I have to be very careful about is you got to still brand the show itself, as a hit. Because what you don't want to do is have your star leave and everybody go, well, I guess we're not going to look at it anymore. But I think Star is Born is strong enough as a title, and he's had 4 movies with 4 different casts, that hopefully we'll be able to position ourselves well in the marketing and the publicity of it, that we'll have success. Of course, it's really hubristic of me to keep thinking that we're in that kind of success when we haven't even opened yet. But unfortunately, as a producer, you have to think that way. So you start talking about a year later, and somebody says, well, can't you just open it first before you think about a year later? But anyway, you have to do that.
So if you're going to major star, don't you have a problem with their schedules, with other potential movies? I mean,
well, they have to be exclusive to you.
So
for that period, that's all they do. And they understand that. And you make that understanding very clearly, that they carve out X period of their life, the same way you would if you're doing a film. If you're making a movie, and you're in principal photography, for that period of time, you can't do your PR for another film that you just finished 4 months ago. You have your exclusivity period, you build it into the contract that you're exclusive during that period.
So at the end of the year, probably by then, he's going to have other things scheduled.
Sure.
He's going to be off doing something else.
Sure, you would schedule, his agents, I'm sure, would get him a gig when this thing would be coming to an end. So, but that's the same as everything. The only ones that stay a little more open-ended really is television, because you can stay on the air for 10 years, and most actors won't stay with a show for 10 years, and kind of hope they do, and then you go back and you start throwing enormous amounts of money. It makes people stay. It's amazing what enormous amount of money. Even people only want to be there for a year with enough money, somebody will say, okay.
I just got the signal that we only have about 5 more minutes, so let's ask a couple of questions.
We didn't have any questions. I'm sorry.
That's right.
If a writer has a concept that they can develop in a number of different ways, a book, a feature, a television, a theatrical, how would you recommend they approach that?
I think it depends on where you feel you want to end up. Writing a book is always a great idea because a lot of material comes off books. So people are impressed by books because you're able to get all the story in there without having to move it. You know, you can get all the story in there. But I think ultimately, if you're not sure what direction you want to go in, and that this could be developed in 3 different ways, you really have to ask yourself, where do you ultimately want to be? You know, if you want to use it, you know, if you want to get it into publishing first, and you think you know a publisher, you can get that done. You can also be practical about it. You know, who can I get it to? Who's the most interested in what I have to say? If you have a connection with a publishing company, use that and write your book. If you think you can get it out to an agent who's going to read it as a feature, do that. If you think, if someone comes back to you and says, you know what, this is a better TV idea than film idea, well, then you have your answer. You know, you could just work it out kind of treatment-wise. Go to the friends that you have in the business and say, what do you think? And somebody might actually say, well, you know what, you're much better suited with this in TV than a feature, or vice versa. But I think you have to go where you want to end up with it.
Can one preclude the other?
No, I think they can all go hand in hand. I mean, the thing about, again, feature material generally is written in such a way that it doesn't translate itself into television, unless it's a pay cable HBO film or something. So it doesn't preclude it, but it may not be the best way to do it. You may want to be a little bit more specific. But ultimately, you know, to take the high road, I think you have to write what you have to write. And whatever you need. You know, the reason I can't write, I finally came to the realization why I can't be a writer. It's really, I don't think I have anything to say. Seriously. I think you have to have something to say. I don't care if it's an action piece or a comedy. You have to say something. You have to have a point of view about something that you care so passionately about that you're going to spend all that time to say that. I don't think I have anything to say.
Well, you're playing a different game.
Yeah, I don't think I'm interested. I don't think I have anything to say. I've really reflected on this. But this is chit chat, you know? I mean, I've tried. I've tried to say, okay, because I can edit really well. I can work with writers really well. I can work a story around really well and give ideas. But I can't sit there with nothing like you guys do. Just sit there with nothing and go, here it comes. I admire it completely. I think you're all crazy, but you are. But I think it's the greatest thing. Yeah. I love writers. I think you're all nuts and lunatics.